Om Badram Karanebihi Shrunyama Devaha Badram Pashyema Akshabihi Ryajatraha Sthirairangayir Tushtuvam Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitai Yadayuhu Swastinah Indro Vridrashravaha Swastinah Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastinah Tarksho Arishtanemihi Swastino Bruhaspatir Dadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi Yo antah pravishya mama vacha imam prashuptam sanjeevayati akila shakti daraswadamna anyam shtahasta charana shravanatvagadim प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथाभूतं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So good morning, good afternoon and good evening for folks who have joined for the 19th session of Mundaka Upanishad, also called as Atharvana Upanishad, one of the Upanishads of the Atharva Veda. The Devata, of course, is Akshara, Namaka Paramatma, Rishi, let's never forget Atharva, Angira, Satyavaha, Angirasa, Shuanaka, and all the Acharyas who have given us the Bhashyas, Chandas, Anushtup, and others. So we are in the Dvitiya Mundake Pratamaha Kandaha. Tadetat Satyam, Yata Sudiptat, Pavakat, Vishwalingaha, Sahasrashaha, Prabhavante, Sarupaha, Tata Aksharat, Vividaha, Somya Bhavaha, Prajayante, Tatracha Eva Apiyanti. Divyo hi amurtaha purushaha sabahyaabhya antaro hi ajaha aprano hi manaha shubro hi aksharat paratah paraha. Yetasma jayate prano manaha sarva indriyani cha kam vayur jyoti rapaha prithvi vishwasya dharini Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho Dishaha Shrotre Vag Vivrutascha Vedaha Vayuhu Prano Hrudayam Vishwamasya Bhatvyam Prithvi Hi Esha Sarva Bhutantaratma. So these are the verses that we have done. We have done the first half of the fourth verse. Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho Dishaha Shrotre Vag Vivrutascha Vedaha. So this whole kanda basically evolves from this, isn't it? Tad etat satyam. That Satyanamaka Paramatma. Why is he called Satyam? Because he is the dispenser of eightfold cosmic dispensation of the universe. And how can we see him in the fire? When we look at the Yajna, we have to get that idea that he is the creator of the universe. And that Satyam is Divyaha, Amurtaha, Purushaha, Bhakhyabhi Antaraha, Ajaha, Apranaha, Amanaha, Shubhraha, and he is Aksharat Parataha Paraha. So we did all that in the last fortnight or so. And then Angirasa has gone into giving us the sequence and the order of creation. And we discussed at that point that this creation is not a random event. It's just not happened just like that. Some of us are being asked to believe that the universe was a random event, and all these, varied things that you see in the universe is all a random event. So say some folks. This is their problem, but our Vedic cosmology is very clear. It gives us a clear order of creation. Okay? And we understood from that particular session last week that how all the Tattvabhimani Devatas are being described by Angirasa first and gives them an order, in which they are appearing. That was this verse. Yetasma jayate prano manaha sarva indriyani cha kam vayur jyotir Prithvi Vishwasya Dharini. So what was the summary of that particular verse here? So we understood the 24 tattvas, the basic entities that forms the primordial soup before the universe starts differentiating further and all the life forms start evolving. So we understood Mula Prakriti, then Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, then Mahat Tattva, then Ahankara Tattva, which divides into Vaikarika, Tejasa, and Tamasa. From Vaikarika, the Manas, Tejasa, Indriyas, Tamasa comes Panchatanmatras, and then the Panchabhutas. So that is exactly the order in which our Guru Angirasa has taught to Shuanaka. Yetasma jayate prano manaha. That is the first few things that is evolving. I've just numbered it as one, okay? Because that is the very first thing that we have understood. And then Sarva Indriyanicha, then all the Bahya Indriyas, all the Indriyas that are outside, they are coming out second. Then finally, Kam Vayur Jyoti Rapaha Prithvi, that is the third. So we've had Mahat Tattva, Ahankara Tattva, Indriyas, and the Panchabhutas 1, 2, and 3. So if you think about it in one other perspective, last week we understood that this was all about, the Vedic pantheon and how the order in which they appear is also perfectly in tune with what we have learned about the Vedic pantheon and how it is important in Vedic philosophy. Now, if you look at it from a slightly other angle, what happened? What comes first? And we have understood those sequences, isn't it? First the Jada Tattvas come, then the Abhimanis of the Jada Tattvas, then the bodies of the Abhimanis, and then the Antaryami who is inside then gives them all the volition. Yeah, that is the fourth sequence in which the universe comes. So what have we done in this particular verse? We have looked at two concepts. One is called Adhibhuta, and the second one is called Adhideva. So Adhibhuta Srishti and Adhideva Srishti. Yeah, Adhibhutas is what? Bhutas, there are so many meanings, but in one meaning of Bhuta is all these material things, right? So the Panchabhutas. Yeah, so Adhibhutas. So how the Adhibhutas have come is described here. And how all the Abhimani Devatas have been described here, Adhideva. Then, of course, you have the Adi Atma and the Adi Yajna. So you remember all those things that Krishna talks about. Adhibhuta, Adhideva, Adi Atma, and Adi Yajna. So who is going to tell us very briefly? I'm going to briefly pause for a few seconds. Who is going to tell me what is Adi Atma? So what is Adi Atma? So if I say Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva is fine. So who is going to tell us what is Adi Atma? No worries. So Adi Atma will be about your Pindandas. So whenever you talk about the Brahmanda, you should also be thinking about the Pindanda, which we have done enough and more by looking at all the how our own Pindanda, this Atma, as you know, has got 4 different meanings, right? Atma can mean the body, Atma can mean the mind, Atma can mean the Jiva, Atma can also mean the Antaryami, Paramatma. So those are all the 4 meanings. So when you say Adhyatma, in one sense, you're looking at how does this Pindanda Srishti happen? So that also we have understood that is the same as Adhibhuta Adhideva, in the sense that all these material jadas have been made, that is our gross body, and all the Tattvabhimani Devatas are there in various parts of our body and ensuring that they are working properly. And then we as folks, as riders of this chariot, as described in Katha Upanishad, then we seem to be heading either towards Shreyas or prayers based on our own Swabhavas, and Antaryamin allows us to play out our intrinsic attributes, our intrinsic swabhava. Yeah. So Adhibhuta and Adhideva and Adhyatma are important. And here in this particular verse, he's talking about Adhibhuta and Adhideva. And also just a quick recap of what we did last week, the emergence of Tattvabhimani Devatas. So it's all very well and good saying about what are all the 24 entities that are coming out, but not only giving the order of those entities. Next, Angirasa is how do they emerge out of Brahman? How do they emerge from the Tattvabhimani Devatas? And there we understood that, at least we make an attempt to understand the first 25 Tattvabhimani Devatas, or at least 24. If we can't remember 24, at least the first 15. If you can't remember even that first 15, at least remember the first 8. If you can't remember at least the 8, at least remember the first 5. Okay, that's how I see it. Vishnu, Lakshmi, Chaturmukha, Vayu, Rujus, Saraswati, Bharati, Rujupatnis, Garuda, Sesha, Rudra. At least these 5s we should remember. And then we also should remember that 2, 3, and 4 are called Parashukla Trayas in certain schools of Vedantic philosophy, and all others are Garuda, Sesha, Rudras are all coming after them. So try and sort of memorize these things, because this will serve us well as we navigate through not only the Mundaka Upanishad, but also the various other Upanishads that hopefully we will handle. Okay, so how do we do this? This Vedic pantheon is not picked out of somebody's imagination. This is all in the Upanishads. This is what the Vedas have told us. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, Aitareya Brahmana, Taittiriya Samhita, they all give us this Vedic pantheon. Yeah, so we cannot forget. Some people conveniently forget that and build their own airy-fairy castles in very shaky foundations. But our foundations for Vedic philosophy has to be based on the Vedas, period. We cannot sway one way or the other to suit our own philosophy. So what does Aitareya Brahmana says? Agnirvai devanam avamo Vishnuhu paramaha tadantara sarva devataha. Taittiriya Samhita Agnir avamo devatanam Vishnuhu paramaha. Okay, so it's all very, very clear in the Vedas, Apaurusha Vedas. So we cannot be slippery on this. Okay. So the emergence of Tattvabhimana Devatas and the Jivas. So all of us, Tattvabhimani Devatas and the Jivas, we are actually in samsara. Okay, that is, at least this batch of Tattvabhimani Devatas, we are in samsara. Okay, so and again there is a differences in how long these guys hang out. The Tattvabhimani Devatas, we as Jivas, we are here until Brahma finishes his 100 years. Yeah. Until Brahma Kalpa is finished, we are hanging out in this samsara. Okay, there's no way around it. We have to be going round and round in circles. Some of us may go to Satyaloka and be there until Chaturmukha finishes his innings, but still we have to wait for 100. Yeah, all of us have to wait for 100. Yeah, and then for folks from Indra, okay, from folks from Indra downwards, they keep changing. Okay, so here is a quick quiz for some of us who will be very familiar with this. From number 8, Indra downwards, they keep changing. The batch keeps changing. What we should not forget, one of the key ideas that we should not forget is Indra is not a name of a soul. Okay, Indra is a designation. Okay? Similarly, Varuna is a designation. It is a portfolio for somebody to do certain components in the universe. So there are infinite souls who have come, and infinite souls will come in the future who keep changing. And as and when one Indra goes, another Indra comes to run the universe. So that is the Vedic view of this. So here is a quick question. When do Indras change? Indra downwards, when do they change in their batches?
Manvantara change.
Beautiful. Very good, Sushruji. Excellent answer. So every Manvantara, Indra from downwards, they all change. Yeah. So who is going to tell us what is the name of the Indra for Vaivaswata Manvantara that we are there at this point? What is this Indra's name?
Purandara.
Purandara. Anybody else?
Upendra.
Upendra. Okay. Anybody else? So quite diverse names that's coming in. Purandara, Upendra. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm going to give it to you guys to do a little bit more of research, and then we will pick this up in the next class to find out what is the name of that Indra. Okay, so but anyway, we got it right. Every Manvantara they change, but these folks above Indra, okay, Chaturmukha, Saraswati, Garuda Sesha, Rudra, Shanmahisha, Suparni, and all that. These chaps, they are there. They don't change until the Brahma Kalpa is finished. Until Brahma's innings is over, these guys are going to be hanging around. Okay, so here is another quick quiz. So the Chaturmukha guy, when he finishes his innings and he goes to moksha, he becomes Mukta Chaturmukha. Okay, and then so what happens to Vayu at that stage? So who is going to give a quick answer? So what happens to Vayu? Does he also go to moksha, or something else happens to him?
Does he become Chaturmukha then?
He becomes
That's
Brahma.
what I had heard. Mukhya Prana is the next Chaturmukha. I don't know how much it is right. But,
Anybody else?
Vayu takes the jivas who are destined to be born again, and while Brahma takes the jivas who are attained mukti, and Vayu comes back as Brahma, and the jivas who are to be born again also come back in the next pralaya.
Beautiful, Sureshji. Excellent. And then there is another Ruju. Then he takes up the position of Vayu. This Vayu becomes Chaturmukha Brahma. And that's how the cycle goes. What happens to our Rudra? What happens to Rudra then? When Brahma Kalpa is finished, what happens to Rudra? What does he become? Any views on that or insight?
Shesha.
Rudra becomes Shesha.
Shesha.
Sesha. Fantastic. So in the next Kalpa, Rudra becomes Sesha, and then Sesha then becomes Mukta Sesha. Okay, so I hope you find these ideas interesting because they're all there. They're all there in our Shastras. It is not somebody's made up theory. They're all there in the Shastras. Okay. So emergence of Tattvabhimani Devatas. So what's happening? The emergence is slightly different between Tattvabhimani Devatas and Jivas. Yeah, Tattvabhimani Devatas, the contemplation that we get from the Vedas is the Tattvabhimani Devatas are exalted souls that they emerge during creation from various, so-called angas of Brahman. I mean, of course, each anga is the same as the other anga, but this is for our contemplation. And these guys, they are in black circles here. They're coming out from various places. Whereas you and me, we have been lying in this womb of Brahman with our linga sharira around us and all the karmic imprints that we have acquired eternally. We are just there in suspended animation in pralaya, and then during creation we are coming out. Yeah. So and then we acquire our gross bodies and we make our journeys. So we understood this from this particular verse. Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Suryayoho Dishaha Shrotre Vag Vivrutashta Vedaha Vayuhu Prane Hridayam Vishwamasya Padbyam Prithivihi Esha Sarva Bhutantaratma. So the first half, as I said, we did it before, and we compared it with Purusha Shukta. So what was the summary slide? So the Purusha Shukta verses are on the right, and the Mundaka Upanishad are on the left, and they're pretty much saying the same thing. Okay. So what is going on here? Purusha Shukta says Chandrama Manaso Jataha Chakshor Suryo Ajayata Mukhad Indrashta Agnishta Dishaha Shrotrat. Okay. And our Mundaka Upanishad is also saying pretty much the same thing. Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho. There are slight differences, but that's not because the Vedas are saying different things, but it is for our contemplation to understand that many of the Tattva Bhimani Devatas can have origins from different places of Chaturmukha Brahma. Okay, they have different origins even in the same Brahma Kalpa. Okay, so that is for for those who are interested to go dwell deep into this philosophy. But anyway, so the right eye is Surya, the left eye is Chandra. And then from the ears of Brahman comes all the directions: Kubera, Ishanaha, Indra, Agni, Yama, Nirriti, Varuna, Vayu, Brahma, Sesha. And then we also understood that Vag Vivrutashtaveja, from the speech of Brahman came the Om, and then all the Vedas and all the sounds of the universe. Okay, so that is how we finished this verse last week. So the new verse for today is Vayuhu Prano Hridayam Vishwam. Okay, Asya. Okay, Vayuhu Prano Hridayam Vishwam Asya. Okay, so let's look at this. Vayuhu Prano. When I say that prana, it is Mukhya Prana. Yeah, not Marichi or Pravaha Vayu or some other guys. I'm talking about the Jivotama, the highest among the souls. He comes from the prana of Brahman, and that's why he also gets the name Prana or Mukhya Prana or Madhyama Prana, if you want to be, very scientific about it. So Vayuhu Prano. So from the breath of Brahman comes this Vayu. Yeah. And the same thing is said in Purusha Shukta as Pranad Vayur Ajayata. Okay. That is also very clear. So the interesting verse is here, the interesting cryptic verse is Hridayam Vishwamasya. Okay. So from the heart position of Brahman comes Vishwam. Okay, so this is interesting. So what is this? This is a new one, because Purusha Shukta doesn't give that. Yeah, Purusha Shukta doesn't talk about this. But again, what we also have to do is, and this is what all our acharyas have said, is we need to study the Vedas as much as we can. We need to study all the 10 Upanishads so that we absorb all the information from all the 10 Upanishads and we have our own synthesis of what is going on here. So when Mundaka Upanishad says Hridayam Vishwam, okay, so that Vishwam becomes interesting. Okay, so here is a quick quiz. What is the first name of Vishnu in Vishnu Sahasranama and why? So who wants to take this up?
Vishwam.
Vishwam.
Okay, so Neetaji said Vishwam. Suresh?
Vishwam is what I was saying.
Vishwam, fantastic. Anybody else? Okay, so we all categorically understand that the very first word of Vishnu Sahasranama is Vishwam. Okay, so why is Vishnu called Vishwam? Anybody wants to take this up?
Because he's all pervading,
Fantastic.
both within and outside.
Thank you, Suresh. So Vishati iti Vishwam. Yeah. Vishati Sarvam iti Vishwam. Yeah.
Can
So,
I say?
yeah, go for it.
It has 19 faces. And the center face is the elephant face, which Ganesha is does Upasana.
Okay, thank you, Shobhaji. Yes, so that Vishwambara Muti, the one that is the Abhimani of the Jagrati Sthana of the consciousness of soul. So you can bring in all those ideas. Thank you so much. So primarily the first name of Vishwam is Vishnu's name. Okay, but here there seems to be I won't say confusion, but there is another Vishwam who is being described here, who is saying from this Hridayam. Okay, so this Paramatma is called Vishwam, we know from Vishnu Sahasranama, but the verse here is saying from this Vishnu comes this Vishwam. From this Hridayam of Vishnu comes Vishwam. Okay, so there are two ways of looking at this verse, and that's what our acharyas have taught us. So what does that mean? The first one is, let us look at Vishwam. Vishwam is a name for Rudra. Okay, Rudra is also called Vishwam. Why is Rudra called Vishwam? If you think about this, we have just seen how big this guy is. The whole of the material world, this guy weaves it. Okay, Rudra or Shiva Tattva, through his body, Ahankara Tattva, which differentiates into Vaikarika, Tejas and Tamasa. The whole of the Vishwam, the whole of the Vishwa or the universe, this guy is weaving it from his body. Of course, not independently, by the directions of his Antaryamin, who is his grandfather, who is Vishnu himself. Okay, so that is the philosophy there. So when you look at this Vishwam here, from Hridaya, the middle portion of our body is called Hrit, isn't it? That's why there is the English word heart comes from Hrit or Hridayam. Yeah, so it is not it's not something that that English language has invented it. They have actually picked it up from Sanskrit, because Hrit is the middle portion of the body. Okay, so the contemplation is from the middle portion of the body comes Rudra, and he is called Vishwa because he weaves the entire universe. All the Indriyas, Manas, Tattva, the Pancha Bhutas, Pancha Tanmatras, everything is, this guy is handling all this. He is very important. So that is one way of looking at it, as to how this Hrudayam Vishwamasya. Okay? But there is also another view. As Suresh ji mentioned, Vishnu is called Vishwam because he is pervaded everywhere. Vishati Sarvam iti Vishwam. So he creates his universe, and he enters into it, and he is inside his universe. And of course, he's also outside his universe, as described in the Isha Upanishad. So this Vishwam, so this whole universe, the Angirasa says, Hridayam Vishwamasya. The whole universe came out because of his Icha, or because of his grace. Because he is graceful, this universe has come about so that you and me, we can play out our karmas. Remember, if the universe had never come about, what would have happened to us? Okay? So this Hridaya has got so many connotations here. One is the portion of Brahman, or it is his Icha, or he does it in a very loving way. He does it for our benefit. So those are all ideas. So similarly in Srimad Bhagavatam, as you know, in the very first verse, Janmadhyasya yato anvayad itaratashtet vignaha swarat tene brahma hrudayad adi kavaye. Okay, so that Paramatma, in his Hayagriva Swarupa, out of his grace and out of his love for his son, he taught him the Vedas. Yeah, Hridaya, Hrida. Hrida means that idea also. So there are two interpretations here, two ideas here for us to contemplate, that Vayuhu Prano Hridayam Vishwam. Okay, so you see, again here, the beauty of this verse is, Prana comes first, then comes Hridaya. Okay. Prana comes first, then comes his son, who is Vishwam or Rudra. Okay, period. That is how the Vedic pantheon is. There is the Vishnu, his son is Chaturmukha, Vayu, and all the Rujus. And from Chaturmukha's eyebrows, Rudra comes. Rodanath Rudraha. We have done all that, right? Why is this chap called Rudra? Rodanath Rudraha. He comes out from the eyebrow of Chaturmukha, and as soon as he comes out, he cries. Why does he cry? Because he wants to know about his grandfather. That is why he is called Rudra. Yeah, Rodanath Rudraha. So even that sequence is beautiful. Yeah, Vayuhu Prano Hridayam Vishwamasya. Okay, the last line is interesting because it says Padbyam Prithvi. Okay, Padbyam, from his feet. Padbyam means from his feet comes Bhumi or Prithvi. So look at it. I'll come back to that in a second. So Chandrama Manaso Jataha Chakshur Suryo Ajayata Mukhad Indrascha Agnischa Pranad Vayu Rajayata Nabhyam Asid Antariksham Shirshno Dyau Samavaratada Padbyam Bhumim Dishaha Shrotra Tata Lokana Kalpayan. So Padbyam Bhumim, from his feet, Bhumi comes. Exactly that is what Angirasa is intuited in Mundaka Upanishad. Padbyam Prithvi. Prithvi and Bhumi are the same. So Padbyam, from his feet. So that is important because that is how you take the clue with regards to how you interpret the previous lines. Agnir Murda. Murdam Agnihi. So from his forehead came Agni. From his eyes came Surya Chandra. From his ears came all these Disha Abhimani Devatas. From his speech came all the Vedas. From his breath came the Vayu. From his middle portion came Vishwa. Okay, so that is how you understand it. And that is how you build the philosophy of this particular figure that I've told you where how these guys come out. Okay. So I hope that makes clear sense here with regards to what is the contemplation that Angirasa is talking when the Tattvabhimani Devatas are coming. So when we understand this particular idea, Padbyam Prithvi, then we understand the Paramamukya Vritti or the Sarva Shabda Vachyatva of all the Vedas that talk about Brahman alone or Vishnu alone. Why do I say this? Devatas get their name because they emerge from Brahman from areas that have been celebrated with those names in the Vedas. This is a very, very important point. Yeah. So this guy is called Agni. The Agni Devata, the Pradhana Agni is called Agni because he comes out from the forehead of Brahman, which is called Agni. What is the etymology of Agni? Atti iti Agnihi. Okay. Atti iti Agni means what? He who devours everything is Agni. And of course, Agni we have done in Agni Sukta. There are so many meanings of Agni. Okay. Why is this Surya Devata called Surya? Because he comes from this portion, Surya of Brahman. Why is that portion called Surya? Suris reach him. The knowledgeable reach him. That is why he is called Surya. Okay. Why is he called Chandra? Why is the left eye of Brahman called Chandra? Because he gives all happiness to all the souls. And that is why this area is celebrated as Chandra. Why is he called Dishaha? He fulfills all our desires and gives all happiness. That is why Brahman is called Dishaha. Okay. Why is he called Prana? Why is that breath called, the breath of Brahman called Prana? Because it gives volition to all things in the universe. Okay. And because this Jivottama comes from this breath of Brahman, he is also called Prana. Okay. So these are important ideas that we need to take out from these verses, because after all, what is Vedas? Chadayanti iti chandamsi. So we have to squeeze and get these meanings out. And when we look at this, it makes very good sense, because this Vishnu in Vishnu Sahasranama has got so many names, including Rudra. Okay. So he is also called Rudra because of this. So now what has happened? This is an interesting idea, and I hopefully will spend another 10 minutes talking about this. So he said, Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho Dishaha Shrotre Vag Vibhrutashta Vedaha Vayuhu Prane Hrudayam Vishwamasya Padbyam Prithvi He Esha Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. Okay. Very, very, very clear statements from Angirasa. This Brahman has created all these Tattvabhimanita, Devatas have come, all the material universe has come. So we have done all that in this verse and the previous verse. We have understood now how the universe has come about, at least from the material part of it and the Tattvabhimani Devatas part of it. And then here he puts a very interesting statement. He esha sarva bhuta antaratma. That person, that tadetat satyam, that aksharat parataha paraha, and that guy who has been given 8 adjectives in the following verse, and now he says that chap, when he creates, he is what? Sarva bhuta antaratma. So let's look at this a little bit more. It's an important concept. Yeah. So sarva bhuta. Sarva means all. Bhuta. Bhuta means what? There can be so many meanings of bhuta, right? We have done this in so many sessions. It could be the jadas. Panchabhuta is the grossest form of jada. Yeah, it could be all the Panchabhutas, which is called Bhuta, or it could be you and me who have the ability to elevate ourselves. That which has Bhuti, or that which has the capacity to elevate itself by following the path of Shreyas, is also called Bhutas. So in that sense, all the Jiva Ganas are also called Bhutas. So Bhuta can be Jadas, Bhuta can also be Jivas. Okay. And what does this fellow do? Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. Okay, so this is very important. Antara Atma. Okay. So this Antara Atma is described in great detail, as again we have done this so many times, but we should never lose opportunity to think about it again. Antaryami Brahmanam of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay. It's where it clearly gives a definition. Yeah, let me take one. Ya Prithiviyam Tishtan Prithivya Antaro Yam Prithivi Naveda Yasya Prithivi Shariram Yaha Prithivir Antaro Yamayati Yeshata Atma Antaryami Amrutaha. Okay, that is the definition of Antaryamin, Antaryami Brahmanam of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And again, we are very popular with Taittiriya Upanishad, isn't it? So akamayata bahusyam prajayeti satapo atapyata satapastaptva idam sarvam asujata yad idam kincha tat shristva tadeva anupravishata. So this fellow goes into everything. That is exactly what he esha sarva bhuta antaratma. This is the difference between the creatorship of Brahman and creatorship of you and me. For example, we may be baking a cake this afternoon. We may be creating a cake. You may mix things. You may put it in the oven and you may have a rather good looking or a shapeless cake depending on your skills. But after you've created the cake, you're outside the cake, right? You're not inside the cake. You're not sitting inside the cake as well. You're outside the cake. You're different from the cake, but you're not inside the cake. That is the difference between you and me and Brahman. Brahman creates, but at the same time, he also pervades all his creation and looks after it. That is his greatness. He gives them their reality, their ability for knowledge and volition. That is what Brahman does, says the Vedas. So here is an important point. Look at the Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. So he is Bhuta here is there. There is the Atma here. There is the Bhuta here, which has two meanings. So one meaning is the Jiva. So Sarva Jivas Antaratma. That is how you read there. Sarva Jivas Antaratma. Okay. So if the Vedas say he is inside all the Atmas, then the simple logic there is, and that is universal of any languages, if something goes inside something, then that object, that what we call as Jiva is different, and this fellow goes inside the Jiva, so he is different. Okay. Nowhere here has Angirasa said this Bhuta and Atma are the same. Okay. The languages of the Vedas are 100% clear. Yet some folks, they skew their meanings to fit their own airy-fairy philosophy. Angirasa is very clear. He has said, He Esha Sarva Bhuta Antaratma. If I am going inside the house, the house has to be there. I have to go inside the house. The house is different. I am different. Once I've gone inside the house, I am not the house. Okay. Simple, basic logic. Yeah. And people slip. It's their problem. But this is what the Vedas say. Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. Okay. So Antara, that is important. Look at this Antara Atma. There is so much information packed for us to contemplate in these words. Antara Atma. Antara and Atma. Okay. Antara means what? Inside. He is inside all his creation. Okay. So there's a quick quiz here. So I have put a small quiz. This is called Hamsa Gayatri, okay, which celebrates this Antara, that this fellow, this Brahman is in everything. And this particular Gayatri called Hamsa Gayatri actually celebrates this idea. And I brought this in, not because it's out of context, but absolutely in context, but it also gives us an opportunity to revise what we have done before. So which Upanishad talks about Hamsa Gayatri? So who wants to answer that one?
Katha Upanishad.
Excellent. Anybody else? So I think Sheilaji also said Katha Upanishad. Okay, fantastic. So it is in Katha Upanishad. Okay. So the same Hamsa Gayatri of Katha Upanishad also comes in Vamadeva Mandala of Rig Veda. Okay. And this is fascinating. So the word by word, it is the same, except the last word. Hamsa Suchishat, Vasu Antarikshasat, Hota Vedishat, Atitir Dronashad, Drushad Varashad, Rutashad, Vyomashad, Abja Goja, Rutaja, Adrija, Rutam, Bruhat. So in Katha Upanishad, there is this extra word called Brihat. This Paramatma is called Brihat because he's Brihanto hi Asmin Gunaha. He's pervaded everywhere. The same thing, Vamadeva, Rishi Vamadeva, in Vamadeva Mandala of Rig Veda, also sees the same verse. He also includes the same verse. Okay. So for a change, I just want to play that verse because there are, so here what it's saying is Sat. Sad, 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 it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times the verse uses Sad. Sat means Sidati, dwelling. So he is the indweller of all his creation, which is what Yama is teaching Nachiketa in Katha Upanishad and also in Vamadeva Mandala. So let's very briefly listen to it. I hope the audio works. If it doesn't, it's okay. I'll try and play it anyway. Okay, that's just a small little, slightly different flavor today. So the Hamsa Gayatri talks about this indweller. Okay, so we cannot miss that. Yeah, and we should always think about Hamsa Gayatri. And I would strongly advise you to memorize Hamsa Gayatri. Okay, it is an important mantra of Katha Upanishad to understand how this Antaryamin is there everywhere. Yeah. So then, of course, you have Atma. So, Padbyam Prithvi hi Esha Sarva Bhuta, that is Jivas and Jadas, Antara Atma. So he is the Antara Atma of all the Jivas. Clear verse. He is not the Jiva, period. He is the Antara Atma of all the Jivas. Okay. So if you grasp that idea, what is the meaning of Atma here and in the Upanishads? Okay, so who is going to share their ideas? Because this is a big topic of philosophy. Okay, there are folks who say Atma cha Brahma, that this Atma is Brahman. Okay, that is their problem. They can keep that philosophy to themselves. But what is the meaning of Atma here and in the Upanishads? And the Acharyas, the various philosophers have debated what is the language of Atma in the Upanishad. Is it so? Anybody wants to give us that idea there? Any goers as to give their insight into who is Atman of the Upanishads? Sorry.
Brahman himself.
Sorry.
Brahman himself, Atma of the Upanishads, you said, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you said all Vedas talk about Brahman himself. So they tell the glories or adjectives of Brahman himself.
Right.
So
Okay.
here Atma also must be Brahman himself.
Okay. Thank you, Shilaji. Anybody else?
Atman perhaps could mean Jiva and Antaratma is the Bimburupi Paramatma.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Is Atma over here the actual physical body?
Okay, fine. All right. So, yeah, okay. But here he has already said Bhuta, right? Bhuta is his body. If you take Jadas, it has already been mentioned here. But anyway, so lots of ideas here. Thank you very much. So I just want to spend and remind folks here, and as Suresh very rightly pointed out, it's always very important to think about what is this Atma business all about in the Upanishads. Yeah. So Atma can mean 4 meaning. It can mean the body, mind, Jiva, or God. And we have done this verse in Taittiriya Upanishad, right? Tasmad va etasmad atmanaha akasha sambhutaha. So there that Atma means mind. Mind's Abhimani is Rudra or Shiva. Shiva's son is Akasha, who is Ganesha. So that is how you read that particular verse in Taittiriya Upanishad. And of course, inside this Atman is also the Paramatman. That is why he is also called Atman. Okay? Then you have the Jivas are also called Atmans in one form. God is also called Atman. Okay, but God or our Antaryamin is also called Paramatma. Para plus Atma. Para means what? Superior, different, Sampurna. Those are the 3 meanings of para. Okay, so let's not. When I say Paramatma, by saying Paramatma, I've already said I am different from him. Why? Because he is superior. He is totally of a different category of his own, and he is Sampurna. I am not. For those who think they are Sampurna, it is their problem again. So para is superior, different, and Sampurna. And when I say Atma, in the Parama Mukhya Vritti, talking about Paramatma or Brahman, Apnoti iti Atma, Adatte iti Atma, Atti iti Atma, Atatatvat iti Atma. Okay, so that is important, and there is a famous verse in Tantra, Atatatvacha Matrutvad Atma hi Paramo Harihi. This type is all pervasive, that is why he is called Atma. Okay. You and I, we are not. We are sitting in our own corner this afternoon, joining the satsang, but we are not all pervasive. Yet some folks think we are all pervasive. Again, it is their problem. Look at the Antaryami Brahmana or Madhyandina recension. So there are various recensions of Brihadaranyaka. If you look at Madhyandina recension, categorically, that is what it says. Yaha Atmani Tishtan Atmanam Antaro Yamayati Yeshate Atma Antaryami. Okay. So there are so many Atmans here. So for those of you who are interested in this, you should look at what is all these various Atmans here. This Atmani is locative case. This Atmanam is nominative case. This Atma is Paramatma. Okay, so that is the simple grammar there. But essentially what it says is, in this Jiva, inside this Jiva, there is this Antara. And he is the controller. Yeah, Atmanam Antaro Yamayati. Therefore, he is called Antaryami. Okay, that is a simple way of looking at this. So, Atma also means your inner controller or my Swami. Okay, so that is the primary view of the Upanishads when they talk about Atma. So, Atma can mean Pratyagatman, which is the Jivatma or Sharira Atma or Atma. Whereas Atman can also mean Paramatman, which is also called Adhika Atma, Prajnatma or Paramatma. Okay? So it is all about the Prakarana. It's all about the Prakarana. And my intention here was to reinforce that fact that you should look at the Prakarana with regards to where this word Atma is in this particular sentence. Yeah, Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. So Bhuta is Jiva and Jadas, Antara Atma. Who is inside all the Jivas and Bhutas? Is this guy, Paramatma. So that is what is described here. So that is beautiful. Agnir Murda Chakshushi Chandra Surya Yoho Dishaha Shrotre Vak Vibhrutashta Vedaha Vayuhu Prane Hridayam Vishwamasya Padbyam Prithvihi Esha Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. So far, we have discussed about the material world, the Jada, how the Jadas have come. Then we understood all these Tattvabhimanita Devatas, how they have come. Okay. What about us? Has Angirasa forgotten about us as you and me, ordinary souls, hanging around in the samsara and endlessly suffering? Has he forgotten about us? How have we emerged from Brahman? How have we emerged in creation? So this is a fundamental question. Where did we come from? All these philosophers ask that question, right? Where did I come? Where did I go? Etc. etc. But that is that question that Angirasa is now taking up. You guys, Shuanaka, yourself, where did you come from? So from Shuanaka, we understand about us as souls. What about souls like us? How do we emerge and travel in samsara? Okay, it's a fundamental core question of Vedic philosophy. If we are interested, because Shvetashvatara Upanishad asks that first question, isn't it? So who is going to tell us, quick quiz, who is going to tell us the very first verse of Shvetashvatara Upanishad? I know we have a learned audience here. Anybody wants to recite the very first verse of Shvetashvatara Upanishad?
Kim Karanam.
Very good, Devalji.
I don't know next.
Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else? So this Shvetashvatara Upanishad, that Rishi has Kim Karanam, Brahma, Kutasma, Jata, Jivama, Kena, Kvacha Sampratishta. So that is a fundamental question of Shvetashvatara Upanishad. It starts like that. Kim Karanam, who is, why, what all this bloody universe, world, earth, TV, football, etc. What is going on here? Kim Karanam, who is responsible for this? Jivama Kema, what does it mean to be alive and doing stuff? Yeah. So all these questions our rishis asked and they found an answer. And they found their answer in deep intuition, which is what Angirasa is giving us that insight into how we have come. Okay. Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yasya Suryaha Somat Parjanyaha Oshadayaha Prutivyam Puman Retah Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. Yeah, that is the fifth verse for us. And we are making our pravesha into this fifth verse. And we got another 15 minutes to actually skim the surface, but it needs to be seen in all its glory, this particular verse that talks about us as jivas. What is our emergence? How did we emerge from Brahman? And how are we kind of journeying in this universe? Okay. Tattvabhimani Devatas, they emerge from Brahman, but they all have their portfolios. Indra is in his Indraloka, Surya is in Surya Loka. All these guys are in their respective destinations and they're doing their jobs. Okay. The first five, our Chaturmukha Vayu, our Rudra, so these two guys are there until Brahmakalpa, and all these Indras, as we discussed, they keep changing in every Manvantaras, but they are still doing their job sitting in their stations. But it is only you and me, we are just going all over the place. We are traveling everywhere based on their karmas, and we are lost. We don't know what we are doing and what our final destination is. That is our plight. But Angirasa gives us an insight with regards to what is going on here. Tasmad Agnihi Samido Yasta Suryaha Somat Parjanyaha Oshadayaha Pritivyam Puman Retah Sinchati Yoshitayam Bahvi Prajaha Purushat Samprasutaha. So let's look at this verse, but we can look at this verse, but we cannot look at this verse without the basics. Yeah, the basics of Journey of Souls, which of course we have done it so many times in our forum. And once we kind of get that framework in place, then it kind of fits in what is it that Angirasa is telling us here. So let's look at it. We are all in the womb of Brahman, right? And then creation happens, and then all the 24 tattvas have been done, and then the Brahmandas come into being, and then the gross bodies are evolving, and then we are playing our game here. So in pre-creation, what were we? We were the souls, but we had the Linga Sharira. Okay? This is a critical point, that souls always had Linga Sharira. There was never a point souls did not have Linga Sharira. They have always had Linga Sharira. Okay. So that is our pre-creation soul with Linga Sharira. Then we come into this creation, we acquire Stula Sharira. Could be of an elephant or a lion or a tiger or a human. But that is the gross body for us. Based on our karmas, we get these bodies. And then what happens? We have a nice little body. Let's say it's a human body. And then what we do certain stuff for the next 75-100 years, however long we are going to be here. Then one fine day, this gross body falls down, but we are still there as souls with our Linga Sharira. And we've got more karmas that have gone on to our Linga Sharira. And again, we acquire another body. And then again, we are born, and again, we play something, do some nonsense. And then again, we die, shed this body. And again, we acquire based on all the deeds that we have done here. So this is this eternal cycle, beautiful, amazing, fantastic, deep ideas of Vedic philosophy. And we know that it takes at least 10 future births for individuals to work out the amount of karma accumulated by him or her from the 14th year of life in one birth up to 80 years, 14 to 80. Okay, so we are constantly building up these karmas in our Linga Shariras, acquiring various bodies. That is our journey. We have come from the womb. And then once the Brahmanda is all well done, then the evolution of species is happening as described in Bhagavatam. Then we are going through these cycles. What is this cycle? This is called samsara, right? Samsara is what? Material entanglement. The soul is always with Linga Sharira. In that sense, it's always in samsara. But when it acquires gross bodies, then it experiences all nonsense. Okay, all influenced by its karma. So karma, samsara, this is what the soul is doing. And our Vedic rishis have intuited. So what is that journey? How is that soul doing this, journeying in this existence, which is vast, which is incomprehensible existence that we are in? This earth is only called Mrityu Loka or Prithvi, but we know there are 7, right? Including earth, there are 7 levels of existence up to Satya Loka. And then you have 7 lower levels of existence, all the various Andatamas. So I've just given you a brief idea. There is something called Dhyau or Sargaloka. Then there is something called Prithvi or this earth. And then there are these various lower levels of existence. Narakas, 7 levels. 7 levels. So the view there is, if you think about Swargaloka or Dyau as it's called in the Vedic language, yeah, Dyau, wherever I say Dyau, it means Swarga. Then Prithvi. Then the space between Prithvi and Dyau is called Antariksha. So these are basic concepts that we should never forget. Okay, Dyau, Antariksha, Prithvi. Prithvi, Antariksha, Dyau. This is what the rishis constantly talk about in the various Vedic riks or in the Upanishads. Yeah, so don't forget these ideas about Dyau, Antariksha, and Prithvi. And we have come from the womb of Brahman and we keep going. Deval.
Sorry, so is Dhyau and Antariksha material?
Mhm. Everything is material in this equation, right? Dyau, Swargaloka is very much material. Even Satyaloka is material one. You're talking about non-material thing only after Viraja and that transempirical plane, which is described in the Vedas, but I don't know how it will look like. We probably need to go there and check out. So everything is material, Devanji. Thank you. So that journey of souls, again, today I'm feeling very fond of Katha Upanishad because there are so many ideas in Katha Upanishad that actually give us this, what is it that Angirasa is actually talking about. So if you remember that Katha Upanishad where Uddalaka censures Nachiketa and Nachiketa then makes this journey towards Yamaloka. Yamaloka is Dyau, is Swargaloka. Yeah, Yamaloka is not Narakaloka. Yamaloka is Swargaloka or Dyauloka are subtle levels of existence where this guy Yama, who is a Dakshinasapati, who is the Abhimani of the southern direction, and he is also the Abhimani of Payu. Yeah, Payu. Excretion of our karma indriyas. Yama is the Abhimani, and he's also Abhimani of the directions. And of course, he's got a residential place in Swarga. So, Arupashya yata purve pratipashya tata pare sasyamiva matyaha pachyate sasyamiva jayate punaha is what the Yamadutas tell Nachiketa. If you go back to that slide, I think that is one of those deepest philosophical verses. And before that, what did Nachiketa say when he started making the journey? Bahunamemi pratamo, bahunamemi madhyamaha. Kim svidyamasya kartavyam yenmaya dasya karishyati. Nachiketa is right in the queue here. There is a constant queue to Yamaloka. He is in the middle of this queue. He says, Bahunamema Pratamo. Among all the ones that are behind me, I am the Pratama, I am the one. Bahunamema Madhyamaha. Among all the fellows who are in front of me, I am in the middle. What use am I to Yama? So that is how he starts, and the Yamadutas are taking him. And there the Yamadutas say, Anupashyayata purve pratipashya tata pare sasyamiva martyaha pachyate sasyamiva jayate punaha. Nachiketa, see what is happening to all these souls. This is what is going to happen to all the souls who are sitting in this satsang and elsewhere. This is what is going to happen. That is a fact of life. What is happening? Anupashyayata purve pratipashya tata pare sasyamiva martyaha pachyate. Look at these fellows, like how the food is being boiled. Sasya there means oshadi. Oshadi means the food that we eat. Sasyamiva martyaha pachyate. These souls which go up round and round in circles, they are being fried in this kumbhipaka. Okay, they are being fried here. Look at them. Sasyamiva martyaha pachyate, sasyamiva jayate punaha. And they again take that birth only through the seeds. Okay, that is beautiful verse there. Sasyamiva martyaha pachyate, sasyamiva jayate punaha. And again they take their birth through the seeds. That's a very, very cryptic semantic language of Yama in Katha Upanishad. And again, of course, he goes on and says, Ritam pibantau sukrutasya loke guham pravishtau parame pararde chaya tapo brahmavido vadanti. So he talks about the greatness of Brahman in that context. And he introduces this keyword, Panchagnayo yecha trinachiketaha. So if you remember, we have done Katha Upanishad for almost a year. And Trina Nachiketa Agni, Panchagnayo Yech Trinachiketaha. So Yama introduces this word Panchagnayo Yecha Trinachiketaha. Panchagni. What is that Panchagni? That is the journey of souls that our rishis talk about in Upanishads. Yeah. So how much time have I got? I've got 5 minutes. So I'll just introduce this idea. So in the next following classes, we'll take up this Panchagni Vidya, which talks about the journey of souls. Okay, so here I just want to bring back our famous characters of the Upanishad, Uddalaka, Aruni, and we spoke about our Yama and Nachiketa. Okay, so I've got a small quiz here. Uddalaka and Shvetaketu, they are having a conversation in which Upanishad that we have discussed? So it's just a quick
Chandogya.
Chandogya, very nice, Sushuji. So Chandogya Upanishad, we talk about Shvetaketu and Uddalaka, right? Chapter 6 of Chandogya Upanishad. So we all know about the Shvetaketu. So I just want to introduce the Shvetaketu character. The idea here is that we should never be Shvetaketus, that we should be Nachiketa. So the Shvetaketu, what happened to Shvetaketu? So in chapter 6 Chandogya Upanishad, we know that this fellow, he went to a Gurukula for 12 years and he came back extremely arrogant, stabdayaya, and he was standing there like a pillar, did not do namaskara to his dad and said, oh, I have learned for 12 years in this great university. My dad is just sitting in this corner in this hermitage. What does he know? I know more. And that is how that the whole philosophy started, isn't it? Yena ashrutam shutam bhavati amatam matam avijnatam vijnatam bhavati is what Uddalaka asked, and Shvetaketu was dumbstruck. He didn't know the answer for that. So that is the whole beginning of the conversation of Chandogya Upanishad chapter 6. So this Shvetaketu has always been egoistic and arrogant, okay? That is what his nature is. And we know that he later became an expert in Kama Shastra, not in philosophy. He became an expert in Kama Shastra, did texts. And the current Kama Sutra is actually taken some extracts from what Shvetaketu has actually discussed. So that was his downfall, Shvetaketu. But what is happening here? Why am I saying all this about Shvetaketu when it comes to Panchagni Vidya? So this is what has happened. So after our Uddalaka taught Shvetaketu about the great philosophy, yeah, of Vacharambana Shruti and all the 9 examples, and show how you are totally different from this Paramatma, and Paramatma is controlling everything, and he has told him all this. He has taught him everything in chapter 6. But Shvetaketu fellow is really stupid, because he has not really taken all that information. He still becomes more and more arrogant. Oh, now my dad has taught me this. I am very arrogant. Okay. So that is how the 5th chapter, this is the order in which the chapters are slightly the other way around. But when you look at the chapter 5, Shvetaketur Arunayaha Panchalanam Samitimeyaya Tamha Pravahano Jaivilir Uvacha. So I'll just stop there. So what happened was this Shvetaketu then went around the kingdoms, and he came to this Pravahana Jaivili's kingdom. Pravahana Jaivili was a great Kshatriya. That we get that information from Chandogya Upanishad. And interestingly, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, 6th chapter, verse to verse is the same. Exactly the same. Shvetaketur va aruneyaha panchalanam parishadam ajagama sa ajagama jaivilim pravahanam paricharayamanam. So the wording is exactly the same situation discussed in 2 Upanishads, because it is such an important concept. Again discussed in Mundaka Upanishad. This is what Panchagni Vidya is. So let's come back to the story, and I'll close this section. So Shvetaketu then goes to Pravahana Jaivili's kingdom. So Pravahana Jaivili is a great Kshatriya. He's a highly knowledgeable Kshatriya. And although he's a king who lives in a throne, he has students in his kingdom. And the students are there in his palace learning Shastra from him. So he's such an exalted Kshatriya, a king with so deep philosophy. So Shvetaketu then says, oh, I'll go to Pravahana Jaivili's palace and show off my knowledge. I'll show off all the knowledge that I've learned from my dad, and I'll tell him that how well I know about Brahman. Okay. So that is how he makes the entry into the palace of Pravahana Jaivili. Okay. So at that point, Pravahana Jaivili says, oh yeah, please come. Oh, how are you? And all that. And say, okay, oh, you've learned a lot of stuff from your dad. Excellent. I'm really impressed with that. May I ask you a few questions and see whether you're able to answer these questions? So that is how Pravahana Jaivili starts this discussion about what is called Panchagni Vidya. So when Pravahana Jaivili asks him all these questions, as usual, our Shvetaketu is dumbstruck, like us. Dumbstruck, he doesn't have the answer. Exactly what happened when he went to his dad after 12 years of Gurukula. Then he learned from his dad, and again he went to Pravahana Jaivili, and he could not answer those questions. And he was standing there. Oh, again he said, oh, my dad didn't teach any of this to me. It is his fault. It is not my fault. He didn't teach anything. And Pravahana at that time says, okay, don't worry. Stay with me in the palace. I will teach you this Panchagni Vidya about what happens to souls, who is Narayana, what are his 5 forms, etc., etc. But our Shwetaketu has got so much ego. He says, no, I'll leave. I don't want to know about this right now. And he, out of embarrassment, he just goes away. He goes back to his dad and tells his dad of, what is it that you have taught me? This king who is there called Pravahana Jaivili asked me 5 questions and I could not answer those questions. So Uddalaka Aruni at that point says, okay, my dear son, what were those questions? Please, can you sort of repeat those questions? Let me see if I know the answers. So Shwetaketu at that time lists those five or so questions, and strangely, Uddalaka also is not able to answer them. Uddalaka he's also dumb. So he tells his son, look, I am also unable to answer this question. Why don't you and we go to this Kshatriya as his student and learn from him? Okay? I don't know. Let's go and learn from him. So even at that point, our Shwetaketu says, no, I'm not going to come. You go and do whatever you want. I don't want to come to Pravahana Jaivili. I've been insulted enough. I don't want to go and learn anything from him. You go and learn, and then if you want, you come and teach me later. So then Uddalaka, the dad, goes to Pravahana Jaivili. Remember, Uddalaka Aruni is a great rishi, knowledges of the Vedas. And this is the beauty of our Vedic system, which has been so perverted these days, which is really sad, where the movements was very vertical. Everybody respected everybody else. Whoever had the knowledge, people will go to them as their Sishyas. So here was Uddalaka Aruni Rishi, who goes to Pravahana Jaivili, who is a Kshatriya, to learn about Panchagni Vidya, which is exactly what our Angirasa is teaching Shuanaka in a very brief way. Okay. So what were those 5 questions? I keep telling about these 5 questions, and I'll just introduce what those 5 questions today here, and then we'll pick it up in the next class. So Pravahana Jaivili asked, Shwetaketu, do you know when persons die, how do they go to their destined place? Shwetaketu said, no idea. Do you know how do they return to this world? They go somewhere and again they come back to this Mrityu Loka. How do they return to this world? No, I don't know. Do you know how is it that the other world is not overfilled with innumerable such persons who go there? Do you know by the offering of what the Jivas is born again in a form of a person and starts functioning again in this Mrityu Loka? Do you know by what deeds one goes to by the path of Devayana or the path of Pitruyana? And have you not heard that these paths are between heaven and earth? So these are the 5 questions that he asked. The concepts of Devayana and Pitruyana that Krishna has mentioned, they actually come from Chandogya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, talking about the journey of souls. And these are all fundamental questions that Pravahana Jaivili asked Shwetaketu, and 5 times he had to say, Na Bhagavati, Na Bhagavati. No, sir, no, sir. Okay. So this Panchagni Vidya, in that sense, actually gives us an insight into what is happening to the souls. What is that 5 fires in which the souls move around? Okay. So that is the Panchagni Vidya. I'm glad that I was able to introduce and bring this concept of Panchagni Vidya, and then bring about how in Chandogya Upanishad and in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and in Mundaka Upanishad as well as in Katha Upanishad, Panchagnayo. The Panchagni is what is going to be discussed next in these verses. So join me in the next session to look at this Panchagni Vidya in great detail. We'll compare Chandogya, Brihadar, Katha, Mundaka, and then synthesize an idea. Because Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma, never forget that Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. So this Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma, in what are all the names in which he is celebrated, that he is doing stuff so that the Jivas are going through their journey in this universe. So that is what is Panchagni Vidya is all about. So we will take that up next session. So on that note, I am going to say Krishna Pranamastu and just make a couple of brief announcements. So next week I am traveling. So we'll kind of make it as a individual study for next Sunday. Following that, on the 31st, we have an exciting session led by Suresh ji, Anand ji, and his team to actually look at a full-scale revision of chapter 2 of Gita Sankhya Yoga. As you know, it's very important. So if you get the Sankhya Yoga right, everything else will fall into place. So we are going to do a revision of all the 3 sessions that we have done so far. And then we are going to do a session from the expert on Jiva Kartrutva Vada, what is the doctrine of doership of souls. And then Harish ji is going to then introduce us as to how he is planning to do the chapter 3 or the Karma Yoga of Gita. So that is the session in a fortnight's time. So next week is rest and revision time. Okay, so on that note, Krishna Pranamastu. Any questions?
Namaskar, Masuddinji. I had a question. All this Narakas and what all is mentioned, is this the Yamaloka which is in Swargaloka?
Good question, Devilji. No, they are not. So you should not confuse them with what is going on in the Yamaloka. So the Yamaloka, of course, there is some punishment that is going on, and these fellows then so the Yamaloka is Swargaloka, where the Yama says, okay, guys, you are doing good. You go through Devayana and you go upwards. Oh no, you are not doing good. So you need to do the Pitruyana and then you need to go. But because of all your karmas, you need to have all this kumbhipaka, you need to suffer all these things. Then eventually you will come down and then you will again take birth. So that is one view there, Pratibhaji. But your question is very valid with regards to Andha Tamas, Andha Tamishra. So those are all the levels of lower existence. Yeah. Deval.
Thank you.
So, sorry, sorry, apologies if it sounds like I've not understood. But in previous lectures, you have stated that there are eternal things that always exist, and they have always existed. So the pre-creation and Shesha as in gravity. One of the meaning of Shesha is the binding force that keeps everything together, has always existed. Or I don't know if I've got that wrong, but if that is the case, then it doesn't make sense that they are number 5 in the pantheon. So how do you, because we've not talked about Kala over here, because that is another independent existence along with Paramatma. So just, I don't know if I'm asking.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. It's an interesting question, Devalji. I'll come back to it. But before that, just say if anybody else wants to contribute here with regards to what Devalji is wanting to share. Anybody wants to do this? Okay, no worries. So I'll take it up. So Devalji, so what you're saying is that so that gravity is there, that Sesha, yeah, the Sesha, that gravity is there. Now you have to look at it in different perspectives here. So you're looking at say, let's look at it from a material perspective. So from a material perspective, okay. So there is this material world that has been created. That material world, there are all these heavenly bodies, earth, moon, sun, and so on. They're all rotating again around each other. Then the solar system is going around. We are told there is a black hole in the center of this Milky Way galaxy. And then this galaxy is going around something else, which we are told that there is another huge black hole somewhere, and all these galaxies are going. And everybody is going around everything. And then what is going on? The question there is, why are they all going around each other? Number one. And the second one is, why are they not falling down? Why are they all there in their own position and they are not falling down? So there, our Vedic rishis said, look, there is this entity called Sankarshana or Sesha. Sesha is also called Sankarshana, right? Not to be confused with the Vishnu's Vyuha form. So that is also important. So here the philosophy, they have all this material universe. And then our Sesha, who has got 1,000 head, Ananta, he's got 1,000 hooded head. It's all metaphorical. And in one of the hoods, there is this mustard-sized universe, which is ours, which he is holding. Okay. So there, the idea there is this whole universe must have so much of gravity, right? It must have so much of pulling capacity, unimaginable. So that is resting on this Sesha. Okay. And his portfolio in the material world is to hold this, and he holds this. Okay. And then the view there is, who is holding Sesha? So this guy is called Kurma. Okay. Then this holding the Sesha is the Vayu Kurma. Vayu, the prana, Mukhya prana tattva, holds the Sesha. Who is holding the Sesha? Vishnu Kurma, and the Vishnu is holding the Sesha. So the Sesha there is this guy who holds the whole universe together, Sankarshana or Akarshana. Sesha is, so the etymology of Sesha is that which is left when everything has dissolved. Okay, so that is what is Sesha literally means. Sesha means that which is left when all the material world has resolved, has been crunched. So what is that? If you take the point of singularity, we are told that that point of singularity before this material world goes up is actually an area of infinite gravity. Okay? So that infinite gravity is what that is left when the material world has crunched. So what is left after the material world is what is called Sesha, which is also called Akarshana or Sankarshana. So that is in the material platform. Whereas in that our usual metaphorical picture, right, when there is this Sesha and this Vishnu is actually lying on Sesha, then there is this Sri Tattva, then there is this lotus that comes out, and then there is this Chaturmukha Brahma. That one actually captures this idea, okay, of this matter with infinite gravity that is held by Sesha. That is one view. The other view is, and for which you have to go to the Puranas, which actually talk about how Sesha has a special, he has a special boon, a grant, where he is always with Paramatma in Moksha Sthiti. So that is the Moksha Sesha. So in the trans-empirical plane is also this guy who is there. So in the trans-empirical plane also this Mukta Sesha is there. He is always in companion with Vishnu. Okay, so you can look at it in various forms. And of course, in Muktisthana, there is not one Sesha. There are infinite Seshas out there. Okay, and here there are the other Seshas who are going through samsara and doing their portfolios. So think about that. So we are having somebody raise hand. Shobha Srinivasanji.
Namaskara Re. This is a different question completely.
So Shobhaji, can I ask you to hold your question? So let's finish this discussion if that's all right. Anand, you had a view to share.
Yes, Madhuji, it's about Devalji's question. It's a good question. The eternal things are already there. So when you say God created them, what it means, it's that it's relative to the creation of this universe. Like Mahakasha. Mahakasha is always there. When he says the Akasha was created and Abhimani Devati was assigned to the Akasha, it means it's relative to the creation of the universe. The same thing is true with the time. Time is always there. When we say time was created, it means the sun and moon were created and the time we started dividing into the various units. And the same thing holds good with the Shesha, which means it was always there. But when we say it was created, it means relative to the creation of this universe. That is one way of understanding that.
Sure, Anandji, yes, okay, that's fine. Thank you for that. So then also there is let's not spend too much time. I'm conscious of time here. So creation has got so many ways of looking at it, Devalji. There's one thing called Abhutva Bhavanam, and the second one is called Paradina Viseshapti. So those are the two ways of creation. So the Paradina Viseshapti is a creation of eternal entities. That is what Devalji was asking. How can eternal entities be created? So that is called Para Adina Visesha Apti. It is just that bringing forth their manifestation into existence. Okay? They are already there in an unmanifested state, but bringing them into manifestation by giving them what is called as Visesha. Para Adina Visesha Apti. So it's a tough concept to think about how eternal entities are created, but the technical definition of that is Paradina Viseshapti Devalji. Google it out. There is the other one called Abhutva Bhavana, which is like creation of a pot. You have the mud, you put it on a wheel and then you create a pot. So that creation is different from, so that is a non-eternal creation. Whereas for eternal, this is the Paradina Viseshapti. Okay, I think Shobhaji had a question.
Mine is a different question completely. And I was just curious for many years for this thing. You were talking about this Nachiketa and Shwetaketu in today's lecture. I mean, you just touched upon Nachiketa and his father, their father, that is Udalka. How come he was a very sensible person with respect to Nachiket, with respect to Shwetaketu, but he was not a sensible person, meaning he gave all the worst of the worst cows, Godana and all these things. When he has the very good knowledge, how come he did like that to the another son? Just a curious question, just nothing to do with today's Pata.
Okay, yeah, no worries. So Shobhaji, I think the answer there is, I would request go back to that first 1 or 2 lectures on Katha Upanishad where we have dealt with this in great detail. We have spent a couple of hours actually talking about this whole prelude to the discussions of philosophy of Katha Upanishad. But the answer to that is everybody falls down. Yeah, Uddalaka was a great rishi, but rishis also fall down. They make mistakes. Okay, and then what mistake he felt? He was desirous. Ushan Havai Vajashravasaha. That is the very first verse of Katha Upanishad. Ushan Havai Vajashravasaha Sarvad. He said he gave his wealth. Ushan Havai, desirous. Okay, that was the fundamental mistake he did. He was desirous of what? That he wanted to do this yajna and go to Swarga. So that is where he made a mistake. He was desirous. You should do things without any desires. So that was his first falling down there. And it's all about the ignorance, right? All of us get ignorance all the time. And you don't have to be, the only ones who don't get ignorance is possibly the ones that are in moksha. Even aparoksha jnanis get ignorance. In fact, aparoksha jnanis getting ignorance is what the ignorance we were discussing that this morning after their aparoksha jnana. So I think everybody falls down, including Uddalakarani. Uddalakarani fell down because he was desirous of obtaining Swarga. Yeah. But to obtain that Swarga, he made another mistake that he gave all these cows that were useless, old. They had Dagdatruna, and all those words are beautiful in that Upanishad. Dagdatruna, all the cows that have eaten trees, leaves and so on, old cows. That was a mistake he did. So we have to learn from Uddalaka's mistake that we should not do that. But I think doing mistakes is a universal problem. So I think that same thing happened to Uddalaka. Hope that answers the question. But please check out our those first 1 or 2 lectures in Katha Upanishad where we've dealt with this.
Except that Parashtukla Traya, others do mistake, even including Garuda Shesha Rudra also. They might do 1 out of 10 billion mistakes, 10 billion things. They might do only one mistake, whereas we do 10 billion mistakes and we might do one right thing in our life.
Sure.
But like that, everybody does makes mistakes. That's what I also thought about it. Thank you. Just this was getting into my head for last few years. Why did Uddalaka did like this to this thing? So
Sure,
thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Shobhaji. So if there are no further questions, may I request Harish ji to take us through Om and we close today's session. Thank you. Thanks, Harish, and thanks to everyone. So we'll catch up again in a fortnight's time. Looking forward to the Gita Chintana, and then we'll make our onward journey literally in Mundaka Upanishad in April. Okay, take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Guru